listeners. Welcome to the Raising Killen podcast. My name is Marsh Naidu. For those of you who are new to us, I'm a physical therapist by training as well as mom to Killen, my 9-year-old munchkin with cerebral palsy. I blog at raisingkillen.org as well as host this podcast where we curate resources for parents that are raising children with disabilities. In today's episode number 47, we chat with Ashley Schilling from Muscle City Trykes. Today's episode is brought to you by Move Up Physical Therapy.
Ashley Schilling is a pediatric physical therapist based in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are so thrilled to have her here with us today. Ashley, welcome and thank you for talking with us.
Oh, I'm humbled and honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Marsh.
Ashley, what started you on your trajectory to be a physical therapist? Was it your intent to be a pediatric therapist first?
That's a great question. So I knew I wanted to go into medicine when I was high school age. You could have asked me and I said I wanted to be a pediatrician. I got into undergraduate. I majored in biology and I worked at a hospital, a local hospital, and I got to know a few doctors. I worked as a CNA. And, they said, really look at what you're most interested in, which systems of the body and what kind of patient interactions you want to have. And they kind of steered me in the direction of, they knew how interactive I was and how much I enjoyed the connection with patients. They could see that even in my work as a CNA. And they said, medicine is kind of changing. And they were very wise. I think that they could see the future of medicine, way back then. And they just said, if you really want to have that type of long-term connection with patients, maybe you should look at other areas. Not that I wouldn't love medicine, but they were maybe jaded a little bit, so to speak, by the kind of corporate turn that medicine was starting to take. And unfortunately, we might be kind of starting to see that in PT as well. But anyway, so I started to look at different opportunities within the healthcare field. And I did an observation at the Iowa State University where I did my undergrad at their athletic facilities where they were doing PT for athletes, for injured athletes. And I went into that setting and thought, wow, these people are using knowledge of two of my favorite body systems, the nervous system and the musculoskeletal system. And they are basically getting an idea of, and now I would call this diagnosing, but they're getting an idea of the problem. They're setting up a solution for the problem, and then they're coaching the patient through the problem, and then they're watching it happen and they're making changes. And that was really inspiring. I thought I can get behind this. And maybe they've got this for children because I always thought I wanted to work with kids. Right. So I did some digging and that's kind of what led me down the road to PT. And the first day of PT school, I told my roommate, I think I want to do pediatrics. And she said, oh, it's way too early for you to decide. They tell us don't specialize yet. And the professors will tell you that too, right? You've got so much time. Don't worry about that. But I kind of said from the beginning, no, I think I really want to work with kiddos. And I did. I had some great rotations. I got to do one at St. Jude, which was life-changing and inspiring and gut-wrenching and wonderful all in the same time, So I had a really wonderful clinical experience too. So yeah, that's kind of what led me to pediatrics. And man, it's been a ride. It's an awesome ride.
Yes, ma'am. It's crazy how those clinical rotations give us so much direction. But at the same time, it's also crazy how so few of us do get placed in pediatric settings. You know what I'm saying? It kind of leaves a little bit of a gap or a lag and somewhat of a fear when you are faced with a pediatric patient. Because kids are just not little adults. I mean, they have their own set of rules.
That is the slide that I start with in my class. I started with in my class this spring is children are not tiny adults, right? Yeah. So yeah, I really I really have enjoyed it. And then it's been a cool journey, being in the outpatient setting and in a couple of different styles of clinic, private and then hospital-based outpatient, and now kind of back into a private/hospital-based because it's a joint venture.
Okay.
Between two different organizations. But yeah, so outpatient peds the whole time. And it's been such a blast.
Before I get into the actual work you do, I want to touch a little on that pediatric experience you had as during undergrad and during clinical rotation. Okay. If there are students out there listening to this, and you know what, sometimes you do know already the population that you want to work with. And if someone has the inkling that they want to work with peers, what would you tell them? I mean, how would you kind of steer them to navigate that? Because clinical rotations are few and far right now. And there's a challenge with placement as well. So how can they kind of position themselves for that experience?
That's a great question. I would say if you know you want to do pediatrics, let your academic clinical coordinator know as soon as possible, because maybe that person can help find a clinical rotation early on that you can do later. So say that you're a first year and you know you want to do peds, let the ACCE know immediately so that they can look down the line and say, well, do you know a specific area? Do you want to do outpatient? Do you want to do acute care? Are you open to different settings? And maybe there's a potential for you to not really call dibs, but say that you want something like that so that they are aware and they can start helping to make those connections with people out in the community. Sometimes there are alumni from your program that they can reach out to and just say, hey, we'd be interested in sending a student your way. Would you be interested in taking them? Be open to traveling around the country. Look at where the contracts are with your school and be open to that experience. Sometimes it can be overwhelming as a student to think about traveling and having, two locations to have to live in, rent wise and that kind of thing. But for such a short period of time, it's so worth it. I got to travel. I went to school at Washington University in St. Louis, but I did a rotation in Montana. I did a rotation in Chicago. I did a rotation in Memphis. The being open to traveling allowed me a little bit broader selection to choose from, right? So I think if you're open to traveling, that's great. I also think if you have your sights set on a location and you really want to go there, I really wanted to go to St. Jude. If you know that and there's not a contract with your school, that's something that can take up to a year, maybe even 18 months to get set up through the different legal entities of a clinic and a university. So you need to start that process early. So if you know you're interested, be your own advocate. Go and say, I have this location. I maybe even contact the CCCE of the clinic and say, I would love to be in 2 years. I'll be a third year PT student and I'll have a 12-week clinical from this date to this date. If you don't already have a student, would you be willing to consider me coming and being a student in your clinic? Be an advocate for yourself. For those who aren't sure about going into pediatrics, but might want to get a little taste or flavor, find out if your school has any alumni in the area that you could go do a shadow with. Or find out if the peds, I'm the peds content person for UTC, find out if they have any connections. I'm connected to a lot of pediatric PTs. Maybe I could send you for a day with my friend who does aquatic therapy. Maybe I could send you for a day with my friend who does therapeutic riding and hippotherapy. Get a flavor of what's going on and what's out there. Just kind of tip your toe in the water and you'll know, right?
Yeah,
you'll walk into that pediatric room and the brightly colored balls and the swings and the toys and all the mats on the floor, it will either scare you to death and you'll want to run away, or you'll get so jazzed and so excited and just can't wait to, make the day of some little person by singing the theme song to Peppa Pig while they're working on gait training. You'll know, you just will know. And I think that's a great way to kind of test the waters a little bit and see how you might like it.
And it's a great way for you to start advocating for yourself, because you are going to be doing that so much for your patients as well. So it's a great kind of breathing ground, so to speak, for developing that advocacy skill.
And networking, right? So like the Wired Collective and the Wired on Development page, like start looking at resources, maybe not your very first semester, but if you, after your first year, you're really still interested, what's out there on social media, what's out there, websites and blogs. And I see students, I'm sure you do too, on the Wired on Development page, that students will say, hi, I'm a third year student and I'm really interested in working in an outpatient clinical setting in the Northwest, part of the United States. And people from all over start, send me a DM, send me a message. I'm here to help. I'm here to mentor you. So network early, network often, right? And stay connected within, because we really are, yes, we're a large group around the globe, but isn't it neat to see that we're really not, that we're really this small community of people with the same passion and the same drive to help children, optimize every outcome. It's really cool.
So guys, I need to give you the heads up on this as you're listening. I met Ashley Schilling first through Muscle City Trykes, which is where we sourced our Ambucs adapted bike from. But crazy as it is, we also met on a group called the Wired Collective, which is a subscription-based service of pediatric therapists that meet up for challenges and all kinds of awesome stuff. And Mindy Silver in New Zealand is the leader of the pack. Hi, Mindy.
She's wonderful. And thank you for all your work, Mindy.
Absolutely. And so that would be a really, and if as a student, if you still want to kind of think about the collective, I would encourage you to look at Wired on Development, which is a Facebook group as well and provides awesome content.
And her podcasts are,
phenomenal.
I have listened to several of them 2 or 3 times, right? Because they're just, every time I hear Susan Hastings, I have a mind-blowing nugget of, oh, of course, or Billy Cusick, I have to go back and listen to 2 or 3 times. I don't know how many times I've taken her course and I still need to take it like 10 more times. But
I am super excited about you telling us more about Ambucs.
Yeah.
You are the president of the Muscle City Trykes chapter of Ambucs, which is a national association. So I'm going to leave it to you. Lead us on, Ashley.
Like you said, I have the honor and privilege of serving as the president of a local chapter, which is called Muscle City Trykes, of a national organization called Ambucs, with a mission to provide independence through mobility. And Ambucs is this amazing organization. It's all across the country. There are chapters. There's over 5,000 chapter members. And I can't remember exactly how many chapters, but we're in a lot of different states as well across the country. And the mission for every chapter may vary a little bit, but at its core, it's to serve the community of people with disabilities through providing access to resources that will improve their mobility. So our chapter in particular does that through what's called the Amtrike program. And so Amtrike is actually the brand of adaptive tricycles or therapeutic tricycles that Ambucs owns. So it's this great way for us as an organization. We actually own the brand so that we have full control over design and manufacturing in terms of, what do we see a need for within our population that we serve, and how can we serve that need. So that's why we have so many different frames and so many different adaptive accessories. And the bikes are super customizable. I think the really neat part of our program is that we require a licensed occupational therapist or physical therapist to be part of the evaluation for the trike, because we understand as an organization how important it is to take the clinical need of the patient into account. Even though sometimes our ultimate goal is recreation and participation, we still have to deal with some of those restrictions and limitations that we have at the body structure and function level and the impairment level. I think that's one of the cool things about our wish list process is we do require that part. So Music City Trykes, like I said, is a local chapter of the national organization. And I was lucky enough to be one of the first, to be on the group, part of the group that started it.
Wow.
A therapist, colleague of mine, Jenna Priest, came to me when we both worked at Vanderbilt. And I love telling this story. It was late. I was so tired. I was, 12-hour, it always feels like a 12 or 13-hour day, right? You're finishing your notes and all you want to do is go home. And that's the time when you get people, right? When the get zone, because you're just so tired. Sure. So she rolls up her rolly chair next to mine and she's like, "Hey, Ash, you like to ride your bike?" Because she knew my husband and I had kind of just gotten into cycling and triathlons. And I was like, "Yes, I do." And she said, "And you like kids with special needs?" And I was like, "Yeah, where are we going with this?" And she said, "You want to help me get kids with special needs bikes?" And I was like, "Sure. What's happening here?" And she said, "Well, here's the thing. I have a patient who really loves to ride the bike. It's the only thing that makes her happy." And she meant the bike we had at the clinic, right? And so the whole story is this child had a brain tumor and it was removed, but her quality of life post-operation was not great. She was really debilitated and tired and deconditioned all the time. Her endurance wasn't great. And so she needed therapy. But the only thing that was really all that fun to her was the bike. And Jenna used it, in therapy, and Mom saw it. She said, "The only thing that makes her smile is this bike. We have to get her a bike." And Mom did the research and said, "And there's this organization that exists that we could put her on this list for a bike, but there isn't one here in Nashville. There isn't one in Middle Tennessee at all. So I need you to help me do this." And of course, Jenna was like, "Of course, definitely. Oh, absolutely." And the mom goes, "There's only one catch. We need 5 people." Yeah. So Jenna came to me. So it was Jenna and me and this mom and my husband and Jenna's husband. Literally started for one kiddo, and 760 something later in 2021, that was 2010, 11 years later, here we sit, and it's been an amazing journey.
Isn't that crazy, man? That's how things start and so that's 750 kids' lives that you'll have impacted.
Well, and what's cool is that it may not quite be 750 because we have a lot of kids who, like Helen, have thrown their trike, right? And they've recycled their trike to somebody new on the list. So we have gifted 750 times, but that doesn't mean that that's 750 kids. That may be more like 600, 650. We're doing a much better job of keeping track of the recycles now. At first it was kind of oh yeah, of course we'll take that back and get it rolling out. And then we realized, we need to start keeping statistics on this kind of stuff. So we're doing a little bit better job tracking. They will be able to tell people how many we've done that way. But it's now that we've been doing it for 11 years, we definitely are getting them back more frequently. And we've started, using the form that you used. We just created that this year. And it's been a really cool thing because with COVID, we've really had trouble getting bikes because the manufacturing backlog, and it's been awful. The shipping delays, and in order to kind of keep this mission in motion, is the way that the national office kind of put a spin on it, is to keep these bikes, coming back in and going back out the door to the next kid that needs it. And we've been really, really fortunate that the families that we've given these trikes to, they take really good care of them.
Yeah.
Because they mean a lot to them, and they want the next kid that gets it to be able to benefit too.
Tell me this. Okay, so this is a twofold question. Okay. For the parents out there that are thinking about the bike, how do they reach you? And then for the therapists out there that have a kid that they want to refer to you, or, kind of thinking that a bike is going to be a pretty good idea for that kid, how do they get you as well?
Okay, so let's start on the parent side.
Okay.
So if you live in Middle Tennessee, our chapter serves the Middle Tennessee region. If you live here, you can go to our website, which is www.musiccitytrykes.org. And there is a for families getting a trike link that you can click on, and it kind of has a family information packet with a step-by-step process. You can look at the family information packet, and it talks you through which forms need to be filled out by you and which ones by your therapist, and then kind of what the funding process looks like. So all that information is on there. But sometimes after reading that, families still have questions, and we invite those. If you want to email us at musiccitytrykes@gmail.com, I'm happy to answer questions about our process and how we do it. What we like to do is we have a couple big fundraisers a year, and then we have a couple of big giveaways, builds and giveaways. So that way we can kind of use our manpower in the best way possible. COVID really put a damper on how we were doing our giveaways. We would typically build 40 or 50 on a Friday evening and then turn around Saturday morning or afternoon and give 40 or 50 away. And
have a ride to go with that for the kids. It
was so great. Yeah. And we couldn't do that with COVID. So the last 18 months or so, we've been doing smaller giveaways and more one-offs, but we're really hoping to get back to that bigger, event, because it's really a great opportunity for families to meet each other too.
That's right. And for the funding, you can get on a wish list.
Yes.
You can self-fund through your own fundraising as a parent.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a way to source the bike through insurance? How would that work?
So there are a couple of insurances that do cover adaptive tricycles as part of DME, but the ones that I know about are TRICARE, so they are military-based, and they're typically through their Exceptional Children program, or Exceptional Child or Exceptional Children program. So that's sometimes an option, but the majority of the time, private insurances do not. Unfortunately, they view it as an unneeded, an unnecessary item, which I can sit here and argue the benefits at all the different levels, the domains of the ICF, but especially participation. Marsh, as a physical therapist, as a pediatric physical therapist, that is our ultimate goal, right? Is participation, and how we support that level, that domain is really difficult, right? I think a lot of us have a hard time wrapping our arms around what that means. But what I've found is that the bike can be a way for the child to participate in a way that he or she is not able to do with really any other piece of equipment, because it almost levels the playing field. And families view it as something they can do together. So suddenly, instead of, we had one mom say, dad and sister would go on a walk every night together, but mom and our rider would stay home every night because he would get so fatigued walking in his gait trainer that it was maybe a half a block he could get. And he kind of got discouraged and said, I want to stop going. I don't want to go anymore. So he got his bike. And now every evening when they go on their walk, he rides along with them, and he rides the full distance, and that's like a mile a night. Think of it's not only mom gets her exercise, which she really likes. The family gets time together, which they weren't getting at all. They were getting this split time, and he feels a part of something. Right? He feels, and he doesn't get the fatigue. So I think it's just a win-win-win. So hopefully insurances, in the future we'll see it. And that's one thing that I'm very interested in, is doing some research to show and really back up those claims, because the antidotes, we can do those all day long, but insurance companies, they want the hard data.
So the really good, Tennessee for a long time,
Katie
we did not. Yes, Katie Beckett is finally being introduced this year, which will allow parents that are have private insurance to actually, and I believe the limit is they have access to funds, but this allows them to buy medically necessary equipment or to have those services provided to their child. Child with developmental delay and or disabilities. Right. So that could potentially be another source for funding as well. Okay, so say I'm a therapist out in the rural area, but I know my kid needs a bike, and I know about Ambucs. What do I do as a therapist?
So, well, if you live near Middle Tennessee and you're available on August 21st, you can come join us at Amtrak Evaluation and Fitting Training for Therapists. We're doing a CEU course, and it's worth 5 CCUs through ProCert. We got that certified. We'll cover the basics of what bike to choose and why in the morning in a classroom type setting with a demo or two. And then the afternoon is all hands-on lab, and you're literally fitting kids on bikes that Muscle City Trykes is giving away that day. So yeah, it's going to be a blast. So if you can do that, that would be great. If you can't make that, then I am more than willing to help, guide a therapist through the process. I've done that several times via Zoom, especially during COVID, walk them through the process, take you through how to do the measurements, and then really think about the different neurological and musculoskeletal functional limitations that we may have that we need to, support with the child on the trike, and figuring out, where are they going to ride it? Who is going to be there to support them? Because those are the critical questions we have when it comes to determining safety. You got it. Safety has to be first. Absolutely. In the class, I say this, I would much rather a therapist err on the side of fun when it comes to the trikes, because we could definitely get really therapeutic, and we could make these kids, I hate to say this, we could make them work hard on the bike so that they could get, stronger and better coordination and, better balance. But I always say, if this trike is going home to be utilized as a way to get recreational fitness and to be a part of either neighborhood fun or family fun, then let's err on the side of fun, right? And make it successful. Because what I've found is if we make it successful outside in the community, in the clinic, I can make it a little challenging. And I can maybe put that therapeutic spin on it. And I get the kids are a lot more motivated to do it then, because they are successful at home. They know they're going to work hard for maybe Miss Ashley in the clinic, but they're going to go home and they're going to ride their heart out on their bike at home. So that's one thing that I really like therapists to understand, is really make sure that the kid is set up for the most possible fun. Yeah, exactly. Let's be successful. We're working on online training. So I didn't mention, I'm also part of the National Amtrak Advisory Board. And we've been playing with this online training format for a while. And I've recorded a couple of modules with the help of the Birmingham chapter. And we're just right now trying to figure out the logistics of how to access it and secure, cloud storage and all of that. So it's in the works. So that is coming at some point. And so that way, if you are in a rural area and you don't have access to those in-person trainings, we can help you, because I feel like this is something that once a pediatric therapist gets their hands on one of these and has one child have amazing success, they just realize, oh my goodness, this is something that every child could potentially benefit from.
Absolutely.
And bike riding is such a rite of childhood passage in so many cultures. And I definitely feel like in American culture, in most cultures, you look around the world, look at Europe. Everybody rides a bike in Europe. Sometimes there's places that have more bikes than cars, even in Asia, right? Mm-hmm. So I feel like cycling in and of itself has support worldwide. And so why shouldn't everybody be given that opportunity, right? So if we can make it happen, let's try. That's always my mantra, especially when I have therapists say, but, I have a child who's, GMFCS level 5 and has poor head control and very high muscle tone and, has to have dependent mobility in his or her chair. And I say we can always try. Great. Really
Ashley, thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to us and share the benefits of cycling for our kids.
And if there's any other questions you think of later that I didn't address because I went off the rails, you just let me know.
It's okay. I tell you what, we weren't quite sure about the logistics of how the adapted bike would work for Kellen. However, we came to one of you guys, as you said, you ride biking events, and just we got to try out the different bikes. So that did not involve a financial investment; it was just a time investment,
Yeah.
So it was a fun day trip coming out to Nashville. So I think, more of these opportunities for parents to take their kids to events where they have access to equipment without having necessary to buy the equipment, but actually try the equipment before that purchase. And
right. And, we definitely want to get back to being able to do a little more of that, with COVID kind of calming down. And so if parents are interested in that, and when we do one of our big giveaways, that's the time to do it, because that's when we order the biggest array of bikes. I do have people contact me sometimes and say, hey, do you have a bike I can try? And I'm actually kind of proud to say, nope, they're all out being ridden right now. Unless I happen to have one that's just been recycled that, I'm fixing up I'm not, my husband is fixing up in the garage, then no, because we kind of have a policy that if something comes back, we try to get it right back out the door. And I'm super proud. We have such an incredible team of dedicated volunteers. And this is what I also want to say to parents and anybody listening to this. If you are interested in volunteering with us, we will take you and we will wrap our arms around you, because we're always looking for folks. Say that a child in Dixon has outgrown a bike, but we don't have any volunteers that live out there. I might send out a message to our volunteers and say, hey, can anybody be a trike foster parent for just a couple weeks? Go pick up the bike, and I'm going to arrange for the next kiddo to get it, but we have to make sure it's in good condition and there's no safety issues. So, that kind of volunteer support is just so vital to what we do, because everybody that does it is a volunteer, and the majority of us work full-time jobs. So, we would love it. And sometimes we get some of the coolest stories. If you have just one more minute, I will share one with you.
Yes.
We gave, this is so great. So it's probably about 2.5 years now. No, he got it when he was 3. So he's like 8 now. So 5 years ago, a little guy on my caseload got one of the smallest bikes, right? And he rode it until he outgrew it. And at one of our big fundraisers, he was next up to get a bike. He recycled his little bike, and we presented his next bike at one of our fundraisers. And then we invited his parents to come to the fundraiser, and they spoke about the benefits of the bike and how much it meant to them as a family. And they walked away from that, with his middle-sized bike. And they went home and they were like, this really has meant a lot to us. Well, they had him out riding in their neighborhood, and their neighbor came up and said, hey, where did you get that bike? Because my daughter has never been able to ride a bike, and we're kind of interested. And so they came to me and said, can we, don't tell this family, but can we support our neighbor's bike? And I said, absolutely. So within a few months, we had neighbor riding, and neighbor's big brother was there when we fit her. And he told his mom, if there's any way I can be involved, he's a sophomore in high school at this point, or junior in high school. If there's any way I can be involved, I want to be. So his mom reaches out. And I knew he was interested in engineering, because he and my little 6-7-year-old little boy were playing with Legos in the garage that day. And Graham said, he wants to be an engineer like Daddy. And so when I called his mom, I said, would he be willing to build a bike? Would you? And she said, yes, he definitely, we want to build a bike. So then we got him a bike to build. And then he came to the giveaway event and watched us fit the little guy. And he said, I want to do it again. He has now built 3 trikes. And Marsh, he wants to be potentially a pediatric physical therapist.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So this kindness, I get chill bumps every time I think about it. It's this kindness ripple effect, right? So we got Guy a little bike when he was tiny, and then invited parents to come to this event, and they were like, you guys, they didn't realize what Music City Trykes kind of did, I don't think, until the fundraising event. And then the neighbor saw, right? So then they support the neighbor, and then the neighbor's brother, and the neighbor's brother's friend, high school friend, wants to help build the bike. So it's just this exponential kindness wave that is happening. And it's so incredibly humbling to be a part of it. And I'm so humbled to share it with you. Thank you.
And I know, but that's just exactly what it's about. It's this empowerment and education and sharing of resources. I mean, that's exactly what it's about. And
absolutely.
And I hate to end off.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. We both need to go to bed.
But
we both need to go to work tomorrow.
I know it. But thank you so much, Ashley. And I look forward to talking to you again in the future and getting this message out to our parents and therapists, and that upcoming continuing education event you are having is on August the
21st.
And
it's being held at High Hopes in the High Hopes Development Center in Brentwood.
All right, dear. Well, you have an awesome evening, and great talking to you.
What a pleasure. You have a great night too.
Bye, Ashley. Bye now.
And guys, that's the end of another episode of the Raising Killing podcast. And thank you to Move Up Physical Therapy for sponsoring this episode. And until we see you guys the next time, remember, as always, get to the top of your mountain. This is Marsh Naidu signing off.